Question is that this House has considered tackling food waste. Paul Maynard.
It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, and I'm glad to be back in this place contributing again. And can I congratulate the member for Bristol East on both securing the debate and for her long and distinguished period campaigning on this issue and the achievements she's made so far. And I'm glad to see that she'll be back here doing so again over the coming 5 years. I don't wish to detain colleagues too long. I know those are famous last words in this place, but I will try not to. But we so often debate food poverty issues in this place, and too often we don't look at how food waste interacts with it. And I think there are numerous examples we can use to see how we can bring that forward. I welcome much of what the government is doing. The RAP programme really, I think, does make a difference, and it's worth citing to the Minister some of what Lord de Morley has said in the other place about the importance of funding RAP. The fact that it is justified where there is market failure on the part of the private sector in reducing food waste. That is what justifies continued government funding on RAP, and I would hope he bears that in mind as we approach the spending review. Much of the debate, though, on food waste focuses on what happens when the food reaches the consumer. As my honourable friend and member for Rugby pointed out, there's so much the packaging industry can do to ensure that we reduce food waste. But much focus also goes on what consumers do. Honourable lady cited the number of meals that are often eaten in the fridge. I know I have a zippable bag of cheese in my fridge at the moment that is at risk of going off at the moment. I will need to clear it out by next Monday when I get back to London. But I think there are more innovative ways than that even to try to address food waste. And I would like to highlight just one that I think has a real potential. Once upon a time, I was at the cutting edge of talking about the community shop idea. Sadly, the member for Uxbridge and South Ruislip has stolen all my thunder by visiting the most recent opening in South Norwood earlier this month. And with his Mayor of London hat on, he's given £300,000 to trying to spread the development of the community shop across London as a whole. It's the second one to open after a trial example in Goldthorpe in South Yorkshire. And for those who don't know, the concept is basically an offshoot of what used to be called the company shop. It takes high quality, wholesome food from leading supermarkets and sells them at a substantial discount in what's called a community shop. In addition to that, it offers the customers what one might call a course in personal development, literacy, numeracy, ensuring people are job ready. And there are strict qualifying criteria to get membership. You need to live in an area of recognised deprivation, according to the government's own deprivation figures. You need to be on particular forms of benefit that also qualify you. And in return, you get a 6-month membership card and the access to these particular courses. I think it's a superb idea. Where it has been trialled in Goldthorpe, 20% of those who were accessing the community shop during its period of operation found paying work at the end of their personal development course. That's a really good outcome, I think, as a first step forward. And it really should be noted that this is edible food. It is within date. It's wholesome. It is food you would see on your supermarket shelves wherever one might go in the country. It may be that the packaging is the wrong colour, the wrong shade even. It might be that the product was a seasonal one. There might have been a forecasting problem on the part of the supermarket. There are many reasons why the food could end up there at a substantially reduced price. And I think it also tackles one of the problems that the food bank movement faces. It certainly faces in Blackpool, in my constituency, by trying to source fresh fruit and vegetables from suppliers. It's a real obstacle. They want to provide a wholesome package of emergency food aid, but can only rely often on that which isn't perishable. And I struggled on their behalf to try and secure good supplies of fresh fruit and veg. It may be that the community shop is one way round that system. And it's worth mulling perhaps on the arguments about what we do with misshapen fruit and vegetables. I have got myself in the past into great, very hot political water for advocating that funny-shaped fruit should be sold and made available through food banks. It was rather a Marie Antoinette let them eat U-shaped cucumbers moment. So I'm very pleased to see that Jamie Oliver is now championing this cause, because clearly if he can do it, as a Conservative MP, I can lower my head beneath the parapet and not detract quite such a problem as that seemed to when I first suggested it. It's also, I think, worth noting the extent to which community shop and other supermarkets are reliant upon the charities she mentions, like Fair Share, like Food Share as well. And like her, I had seen the figures regarding the examples in France, and I'd seriously looked at the bill that she had put forward, and I was interested to note that the 1.7% of food waste at the retail stage here in the UK versus the cited figure of 11% in France, and also the fact that they donate 20 times as much as we do to charities as we do here in the UK. And I was trying to square those figures myself and don't quite get my head around it. My only hypothesis at this stage is that actually we have achieved by voluntary cooperation a degree of encouragement from the Honourable Lady of the possibility of legislative change to achieve what they've not been able to do in France without passing what's known, I think, as the Loi Macron, which I think, you know, is proving very popular on. I'm happy to give way. She's about to extend her arm.
Share the honourable member's confusion. I think that it perhaps, well, there could be an issue in terms of how we record the food waste, whether the back of store food was there. But it suggests, I think, that the UK is more efficient further down the supply chain in terms of its ordering and that, so it doesn't create as much. But France isn't as efficient, but it's far more efficient at then passing it on for donation. But I suspect it is also a question of it not being recorded very accurately.
I thank you for that helpful intervention. I think it remains something that is worth further investigation in my view, and her reference to the French model is, I think, very important. The Épicerie Solidaire network is absolutely massive over in France. I think there are a network of some 500 of these social supermarkets. But actually the best place perhaps to go to learn about this is actually Vienna in Austria, where Sozialmärkte, as they're called, are numerous. There are far more per capita even than in France. And that seems to stem, in my view, from very strong work of local Catholic charities over in Vienna. Food poverty really speaks to the Catholic social action movement in ways that I wholeheartedly approve of personally. And there's a lot we can learn from the work of groups such as the Vincent Foundation over in Vienna, who are really working not just as allowing those on benefits to access social supermarkets, but also those who are beneath the minimum income guarantee that they have in Austria, or indeed beneath the citizens' income level. There's actually a much broader opportunity. And that, I think, might just help to tackle one of the findings in Goldthorpe, which is that they had to have a screen across the front of the community shop, with a sort of stigma attaching itself, just as there is, unfortunately, and it should not be the case, to when people attend food banks, that stigma that I, you know, like the Honourable Lady, I don't want food banks to have to exist, but I recognise, sadly, that they do. And I don't want that stigma to attach itself to the idea of people seeking help in their community. And yet in Vienna, and in France perhaps, that wider remit for the social supermarket removes the element of stigma that might just deter some people from seeking what can be, I think, life-transforming help. The Honourable Lady spoke quite a lot about the obligations that should be placed on supermarkets in terms of disposing of their extra food that isn't being used or isn't being sold, rather. They talk a lot about corporate social responsibility. I'm sure she has heard far more than I have done. I merely take one example from my own constituency, which is an area called Grange Park, which is a very large council estate on the periphery of Blackpool. It is what one might call a food desert, very remote from the basic supermarkets. It does have one branch of One Stop, which is locally referred to as Harrods, because of the price of the food in there, which is far beyond what would be what one would be expecting to spend if one went 2 or 3 miles down the road to one of the larger supermarkets. One Stop is owned by the same chain as Tesco, it's the same parent company. And it always struck me as a strange application of corporate social responsibility that in their smaller outlets, in the more deprived parts of Britain, they artificially increase their prices because, okay, they may have higher overheads due to it being a smaller shop, but nonetheless, the prices are higher and people are paying that poverty premium that they should not have to do. And I think that does actually also speak to the food waste issue, because the cost of the food is higher, it is more likely to go unsold, and it is those smaller outlets, I think, that might find it most challenging to ensure that their unsold food is then fed back into the system and in some way reutilised. So I would urge the supermarkets, if they are paying attention to this, that if they are truly committed to corporate social responsibility, why not make sure that they charge in their smaller outlets what they charge in their larger outlets, particularly in areas of deprivation? I've gone on long enough already, but I would just like to conclude by suggesting that community shop idea need not be the sole preserve of this one body, this one organisation, but actually it should be seen as part of an escalator in between reliance upon food banks for emergency food aid when the unexpected strikes, and full independence and autonomy and resilience, as I would put it, of the average consumer in society. An important step out of poverty for many people. I would like to see far more of them spread out across the country because I think it's a really good idea. And thank you.
And Lucas.